Hello everybody, and thank you very much for coming and checking this one out. So, we are on the Valley, the Old Farm, and the main objective, I guess, of this series is to try and be as ultra real as possible. So, every single possible realistic mod that I can find, at least, has been activated, and we will leave them on. And then the sheer amount of rules, I guess, which we're going to set are going to be hopefully what make the series a little bit different to the norm. You know, we kind of see. I watch a lot of YouTube. I'm sure if you're watching, you watch a lot of YouTube. Farming Sim on YouTube is a great thing to watch, but a lot of them have quite a few similarities. So I just wanted to do something a little bit different. So if you watch my channel already, you already know I quite like to go realistic. Things like auto load, we never use stuff like that. But this particular one, this is going to go a little bit further, I think. So we're starting the map with nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing. So no kind of generic chainsaw or van or a bit of land. We have zero money, no chainsaw, no vehicles, no land, absolutely nothing. So, objective of the game, I guess, is to kind of start from scratch, but literally start from scratch. So, to make our first bit of income, we're actually going to start doing contracts, just to top up that money. Now, this episode might be a short one, might be a long one. I try and kind of get episodes to about 40 minutes on average. If this is a bit shorter, I guess I'll kind of call it a bit of a pilot episode rather than episode 1, but it's going to be a lot of talking and probably not too much gameplay. Now, one of the first things I'll mention while we are here, we will not be teleporting to vehicles, we will not be teleporting to places. If we don't have a vehicle, we need to hire a taxi. And I found this great mod, which actually lets it look like a taxi. It looks pretty awesome, actually. So if we need to get somewhere on the map, and it's not within walking distance, we will have to use this taxi. But we won't be driving the taxi. We will be paying a worker to drive to that place and just getting in the taxi. That's going to be great. I think that's going to that rule alone is going to make it a bit different. So going into a bit more detail, if we need to take a vehicle, say back to this dealership because it needs a bit of work doing, to get back to our own land, or the workplace, or wherever we are going to have to use a taxi. So as much as the various mods will make it challenging, and I won't list them because there are so many now, but what I will say is I do play on PC, and I've activated every single possible mod that I think will make this series as challenging as possible. So, you know, the new mud mod, for example, which is going to determine the weather and kind of whether we can get jobs done if the rain is due. But also the mods, you know, the ones that if you do slip, if your tyres slip, it damages the ground. All of the REA mods, as standard, I tend to always turn them on anyway, but things like the centre of gravity mod does make it quite challenging to do certain things. The wheels mods, you have to use the right tyre to do the right job, so there's no kind of buying a tractor with a standard tyre size and doing everything with it. We are going to have to forecast, think ahead, and look at costs of replacing tyres to do different jobs. Just so many little things, I guess. The rules, though, this is what's going to make it a bit different. So, we will allow leasing, because realistically, you would lease stuff in real life. However, there's going to be some things you have to do to be able to do it. So if we do not have a home, we will not be able to lease. We need to have an address. Same goes for a loan. We can take out loans. I've installed the advanced loan mod. I don't know exactly what the name of it was, to be honest, but we're only going to be able to do stuff like that if we have a home. Now, obviously, we can't afford a home. We don't even have a piece of land to place kind of a farmhouse on, so we're going to kind of improvise a bit and role play it a little bit, I guess, in the sense that we need to rent somewhere. We're going to have to rent one of these houses already on the map. Now, you can do that quite easily. I think you can even do it on console, actually, just by placing the little doorstep outside the front door. However, we will do that, but there will be a charge which we will kind of, again, sort of role play into the series. Maybe each month there will be a set amount of rent to pay, just to try and keep it real, I guess. And that is probably going to be the name of the series, by the way. Keep it real. I think that kind of works. It sounds a bit hip, doesn't it? Like I'm down with the kids. But yeah, so this will probably be the Keep It Real series. Now, I was kind of thinking, which house could you rent? You could pretty much rent any house you want to. So just as a basic rule, I haven't really explored the map, to be honest with you, but every 5th house that we see, so from here, every 5th house is available to rent. Now, as we look around, realistically, if it's a absolutely huge house with garages and driveways, that's not going to be one. We'll skip that and maybe move on to the next house, because we want it to be challenging. We want it to feel like we're kind of a standard person living in a normal house, trying to make a bit of a name for themselves and build up a farm from the absolute scratch. Now, we will also be, when we're doing contracts, obviously borrowing the equipment. That's going to minimize or minus the kind of price that you earn from it initially. Ideally, just like every other series I do, I like to have it where you only kind of take on contracts that you actually own equipment for to go and do yourself. But in this case, we will do contracts borrowing the equipment. Now, with a little bit of PC trickery, I will make sure that the equipment we're borrowing is actually at the field which we're doing the work in. So again, we would need to make our way there. I think the good thing about that is it's going to determine which contracts we go for. We're not going to go for the biggest, best paying contract, because actually we need to either pay for a taxi to drive us there, which is going to cost us, or we need to walk there, which, you know, it takes up quite a lot of game time. Now, you can't see it in the top corner, of course, because I've literally only just spawned into this map. It doesn't show straight away, but we will be playing with a certain amount of days per month. And what I'm actually going to do is probably speed the time up a little bit and keep that set at a certain time. So as we travel through the various episodes, we'll actually be working in daylight, we'll be working at night time, and of course until we find somewhere to rent and live, we're not even going to be able to sleep. So again, I think that's kind of a good rule to go with. So I guess as a brief summary, I'll just show you on here what I've done. I've set the fuel to buy. The reason I've done that is because when we're in that taxi, it's going to charge us more. So it will charge us what the helper would charge, but also it will charge us to refill the fuel as we're traveling around the map. And again, I've done that because I want it to be quite challenging. Everything else is off as standard. It should be. Fuel usage is on high. All of these things don't matter too much. I'll always put the dirt on fast for 2 reasons. One reason mainly is because I quite like it. Realistically, this kind of equipment gets dirty pretty quickly, doesn't it? That's kind of a standard thing. But also, what I didn't realise until recently, when one of my viewers actually let me know, is when equipment is dirty, it actually deteriorates quickly, therefore needs more repair. So again, it's quite a priority to make sure that you are cleaning your equipment. So I like that little bit of challenge, a little bit of realism. All of these are on, as always, pretty basic for that really. And yeah, what I have done is set days per month to 6. Seasonal growth, of course, will be on. We will not change that. I know lots of people like playing with seasonal growth. Kind of makes maybe for a little bit of a slower start to a series like this. However, I want it to be as real as possible. The reason I've gone with 6 days is I don't want it to be boring. I don't want to be stuck in the same month for 3 or 4 episodes. However, I think we'll get through the days quite quickly. So I'm a little bit undecided actually on the time. I really don't know how fast we should be working through these days. My thinking is we'll set it at times 30 and leave it at times 30. So if you have 1 day per month and had it set at times 5, probably not much in it. I haven't calculated, I haven't worked out the difference, but really there's probably not much in it. But what it is going to do is give us the nice cycles of working a bit in the day, working a bit in the night, having to physically get a taxi or drive back to the house that we're renting just to sleep, to then get a taxi or drive back to the place that we're working to finish off the contract, for example, or finish off the job that we're doing in our own field eventually once we do actually buy it. So I like it. There are all sorts of little kind of additives which hopefully will make it. So I will change that timescale shortly, but not right this second, not while I'm kind of going through stuff. Before you know it, it would have skipped through the month. So I'm going to keep the difficulty on normal. I'm not going to go to hard, because hard would be very, very slow. And yeah, I'm trying to make it realistic. And yes, hard would probably make it realistic, a little bit more realistic, but it is a game. So you know, there's a bit of a limit. I guess there's a fine line between making it so boring that you don't want to watch it, I don't even want to record it. So we have to find a balance, and I think that's a pretty good balance. We'll stick with normal. So yeah, so that's it really. I think every single episode I'll be adding more and more rules. These aren't set. These will, you know, these rules are set, I should say, but we will find more. We will make more rules. We'll continue to make sure it's challenging. But I think we are pretty set to have a decent series here. And by the way, this map looks awesome. Again, this is pretty much all I've seen of the map, to be honest with you. I have no idea what's actually available. But what I do know is we need to start some work. So I'll try and get maybe a job in. We will jump to the menu and see what contracts are available for this time of the year. And at least then we can kind of maybe slowly make our way down to where these are. Fertilizing is always a good way to go, isn't it? I recognise these two faces. Don't know why. But anyway, so what have we got? Field number 5, field number 38, field 73. So this is kind of the fun for me, the little bit of extra challenge. We are currently here, right at the kind of beginning, at the spawn point. I have changed, by the way, the reset point to here, as you'll notice there's an extra icon there, because I've never played it, but what I have noticed watching other people is whenever you reset something, it kind of tends to spawn you at the main farm. We're not going to be working from that main farm. Eventually, you never know, but for here and now, we won't be going anywhere near that. However, we do need to think, how far are we going to have to walk now for our nearest job? It's not always about how much money you earn. So actually, field 5 is relatively close to us, because that is just there. Where are the other ones? I want to say it was field 33. I do, if you're kind of new, I have a bit of a short-term memory loss thing going on sometimes. That's also quite close. That's not too bad. If it was 33, I think it was. And then it was 70 something. Well, now I'm assuming 70 is kind of out in the sticks. So we don't even have the money to pay for a taxi to take us out to do one of these jobs. I can't even see where it is anyway, but maybe it's that one there, 76. But we can't get there unless we're going to walk. And this isn't the largest map in the world, but it is a big map. That would take quite some time to walk there. I am not going to be teleporting. I did mention that already. So you have the function there. It will still allow you to visit places. That's just my own rule. I am not going to do it. I know there is a mod that stops you from teleporting. The only problem with that is sometimes if you get stuck in a vehicle, you can't actually get out. And that will be a bit of a pain when you have to kind of unload and reload the map every time. So yeah, that's the only reason why I've kept it on there, but I will not be doing it. You just have to take my word for it, I guess. Right, so if it was field 5, which it was, I think that's probably a good one to start with. I mean, it's a lot of money, which is always good, but that is a good one to start with, definitely. Now, I will show you this time. I'll cut this out normally, but a little bit of just kind of a bit of adaptation just to make it feel a bit more realistic. And that is, I'm going to go to the field and I'm going to set the actual reset point to that field. So for example, it is here. And I'm only doing that because when we borrow the equipment, it's obviously going to spawn to that field. Which means we have to find our way there, which is great. That's what I want to go for. So we'll jump in now. We'll do the contract there, borrow the items, and they should now have appeared at that field. And because they're borrowed, they don't charge us the delivery costs that that kind of store delivery mod adds. So there they are, which is great. So we're not going to spawn there, but we now know roughly we need to kind of follow the road down, go left and head up in that direction. And what we're going to do as we're walking down there, we're going to count the houses, and every 5th house, see whether or not we want to pay the small amount and place the doormat, in front of it, because that will, for the very, very near future, be the house that we live in. So we've counted 1, I think, so far officially. We'll follow it in this direction. I guess it doesn't matter which side it's on, does it? We'll stick to one side. So far we've counted 1 house. Again, I am going to run. We'll run down here. Here we go. So have we got some houses here? No, we still don't have any houses. Right, there's the field. There's no more houses around here. So I think we can carry on. We can follow this on now. That's not a house. That's some sort of school or something, maybe. Oh, a dairy. That's where we get our milk from. So that's house number 2. That's house number 3. That's house number 4. Let's follow it around. That's house number 5. Is that a house? That is a house. So, yeah, just at random. I haven't pre-planned this. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. But we could rent that house. There's going to be a charge. What do you reckon the charge should be? I don't know. If you're watching, let me know. I'm thinking maybe something like 800 quid. We manually take £800 each month out of our balance. Every time we get through to the next month, I'll deduct to that right at the beginning of the episode. I think 800 is quite a generic figure. So we could rent that house. I guess the good thing about that house is we could kind of park a car, when we eventually get one, in that area there. So that might be a good shout. While we're here, let's keep counting. 1, 2, 3. That's 4. That one's 5. So again, we can rent that house. It's got quite a nice wide driveway, so we could park the car up on the drive. Yeah, number 5. Let's just keep going, and then we will get on with our first job. So number 1, 2. Fuel station's close by, which is handy. 3, 4, 5. So we could rent that one as well again. Not 2, although that's a new street. Maybe, actually, no, 5. 5 should probably be that one. Which again, something to consider. Not really anywhere to park a vehicle on that one though. So unless I could use and abuse that area behind there. Don't know if that would be cheeky. Right, that will do for a minute. Let's head on. Let's get this job going. I don't want to spend too much. The first episode of a new series is always very talkative, but I don't really want to get too boring, especially if anyone new is watching this episode. I think the people who already watch and who subscribe are probably used to me just chatting on about rubbish, but for anyone new, I don't want to scare you away. Obviously I want that sub figure to jump up. That's the kind of aim. That's the reason we do these videos, I guess. Right, let's get this contract done. Now normally, by the way, you would have to buy the equipment, and again, do you think I should have to buy the equipment? I think if you're paid to do a job by a farmer and you don't have your own equipment, you're kind of a contractor just to work for them. They tend to have their own equipment and products, I should say, not equipment. But for example, this needs to have fertilizer. So there's PC trickery. This will, as if by magic, have the fertilizer in it. But maybe I should be paying for that. Maybe I should pay for it myself. Not sure. I personally thought it's a little bit weird that you have to pay for that stuff when you're doing these jobs. Really, you would assume it's provided. So let me know. I'll after this time, I will do that. if you think that's the right thing to do. Now this series, by the way, is not a roleplay. I do a roleplay, I spend enough time, I spend a lot of time doing the roleplay, it takes a lot of work. This is not a roleplay. I will, however, try to do as many things as possible realistically. I'll try and drive in the cab as much as possible, but I'm not limiting myself to only driving inside the cab. It doesn't make for an easy gameplay, and again, I do that so much. Now, as you can see, talking about realistic mods, manual attach don't really get much more realistic than that. Sometimes it does get a bit annoying having to do it every time, but that is absolutely fine for this series, I think. Now, I probably shouldn't have just done what I've just done. If I'm trying to play realistically, why am I reversing over some poor farmer's corn crops? Not very good at all. So I do apologise, and that's not the sort of thing that I will do from this point onwards. Now, where is field number 5? Where is field 5? Is that field 5 there? Yeah, that is field 5. Oh, well, it's fine then. It doesn't really matter, does it? We're getting paid to drive over his crops anyway. That's what he's paying us to do. Okay then, right, so that's the equipment full of fertiliser. Obviously we play the game with precision farming. Doesn't really make any difference when you're doing it for someone else. But let's get this job going. Now, one thing I didn't do, obviously attaching the PTO and the hoses is quite important. So, now we'll get going. Right. Reserved for contract work. Yeah, we're about to start it. Give us a chance. There we go. Now, I'm not going to use the things like the speed up the working mods and things. Interestingly, it does actually damage the crop. I never thought it did that. Never thought it did that when you did a contract for someone else. However, you know, he's given us the equipment to do the job, so I can't really do much about that, can I? I can't do much at all. He should have given us a tractor with some slimmer wheels, really, shouldn't he? Or he should have at least left us some tram lines. I like that. Now, you'll notice it is struggling a bit. Again, that's all those realistic mods. So that's the REA wheels doing its job properly. It's not the mud mod, because it's not raining. Interestingly though, it's not damaging the crop now. So I reckon that little bit of damage that we seen initially was the slipping mod. So basically, if you lose slip, you lose traction, it will damage the crop, it will damage the grass, for example. Really cool mod. Don't use it a lot. On something like a survival series, you don't tend to use stuff like that because it just makes it for a bit too much challenge. But this time round, makes sense. I honestly didn't know you could damage crops when you were doing contracts though, so that's a new thing for me. You learn something every day, don't you? So again, yeah, I will try and do as much as possible in this view, but yeah, it doesn't always make for easy gameplay, I guess. Doesn't always make for a good type of video, because this really, to me, doesn't feel realistic now, because we are physically driving through and damaging crops. Not particularly ideal. Realistically, you could say I should maybe remove some of the menus. I'm going to keep them on, because I do want this to still be kind of a survival series, I guess, something like that, but not a survival series, hence why I won't call it a survival series. I don't like to kind of use names that others are using. However, it is a little bit like that. I just hope we don't get deducted the final wages because we've damaged all the crop. I'm assuming you don't, but this is a bit of a new thing really. So this in theory should start slipping now. Let's have a look. It's definitely slipping. You can see it. It's really struggling now. So is that now damaging crop? No. No, it's not. Yes, it is, actually. I'll take it back. It definitely is. So yeah, that's that mod. Quite a cool mod, actually. I've not used it a huge amount. The thing I find with the roleplay series, I have all of these mods turned on for the roleplay. Of course, you want it to be realistic. But actually, you spend more time kind of plotting stories and doing editing than you do actually playing the game. So the roleplay series has kind of turned more into a kind of television show rather than playing the game, I guess. I can imagine how Scruffed, who by far is the kind of leader when it comes to roleplay, easily. I can't imagine how long he actually takes editing and doing the voiceover and characters compared to actually just playing Farm Simulator. But he does a great job, and he manages to get these episodes out so frequently as well. It is quite impressive. So to be honest, it doesn't look like this has actually taken very long at all, which is good, because I've spent so long talking. I'm probably not far off a good sort of half an hour episode as an introduction, so it's probably worked out quite well, and it has given us a little boost to start off the kind of first official episode, I guess, which hopefully we'll be doing soon. Now my intentions are maybe to only do this once a week, but as with every other series, that's very much dictated by how many views it gets and how popular it is. But I will not lose where I am, lose the progression in the Edgewater Saskatchewan map, because I just really enjoy it. And that one for definite, that's that kind of series where you are actually genuinely playing the game, which is what you want. So I'm just having a bit of a trouble with the traction here, so I've probably damaged a bit more of his crop. I have indeed. Doesn't really bother us too much now, but that is gonna be painful when it comes to actually having our own field. So that's why we are really gonna need to pay attention to tyre types, pay attention to the weather forecast, which you don't tend to do too much in Farm Sim. It doesn't really matter. The only time you're too worried about whether it's going to rain is if you need to harvest, but in this series that's going to be a big thing. Absolutely, I'm going to be checking quite often the weather forecast. Now it does say contract finished, but realistically we would finish the job, yeah? So let's just do that. We'll just pop to the end here. That little bit of extra yield on that last bit of crop may make up for the amount that we've just destroyed. So good. So they look like kind of bodged up tram lines now, don't they? Oh, I should stay off the field now. So yeah, if you haven't used that mod yet, the realistic one, which gives you slip, again, probably only PC only, I guess. I know it's frustrating for console players, but the scripting limitations are a bit of a pain. But does look pretty good. Job well done, I think. So again, that's not our equipment, so we will not use that to get back to the store or get back to wherever we need to go. We will leave it there, pretty much where we found it for the farmer, and we'll collect our contract. So it's going to be reduced because we're not using our own equipment. So what are we actually going to get? So job completed. Oh, reimbursement. There we go. That's a bit of a learning for me. I can't be doing that. So where I've kind of magically made that line appear, at the end of these contracts, let's magically make it disappear. Right, there we go. So there is now no fertilizer in there. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. If anyone notices that I do something like that without realising, it's not intentional, please let me know, because I'll tweak the costing. So contract rewards 4,551 minus 833 because it's not our own equipment. So let's collect that. What a start. I'm happy with that. So we have £3,594. I'm going to keep it as pound, by the way, because whenever I change it to dollars or euros, I still say pounds. It's just habit. So I'm just going to keep it as pounds because it's just easier. If it's a bit annoying though, I will change it. Right, so we have now got a little bit of money, which is fantastic. Okay, great. So hopefully by my timing, probably 25-30 minutes into an episode at this point. I haven't done a lot of time lapsing because I've just been kind of raveling on and talking pretty much the whole episode. But hey, that's what you got to do, isn't it? Is an introduction to the first episode. So only one job of the day, but let's head on down. I just want to finish the episode on maybe counting a few more houses, just so I can at least get some ideas about where we are actually going to rent. Now, I did mention I'm going to jump that time up to times 30. I do feel times 30 is a good one. I'm not going to do it in August in this episode because the whole 6-day months hasn't kicked in yet. So I don't want to skip the whole month too quickly. We need to kind of pretend, I mean, what are we now? It's 12 o'clock of August. So we're probably halfway through August, for example. So we've probably got another 2 days worth, another 2 episodes worth in August if we were to kind of pretend that those were days. So we won't skip the time. As soon as we skip through to October, we will whack it right up to 30 for definite. Now, let's have a little look down here. So we've counted these houses already. So we'll cross the road. And we'll just count another 5. Again, at random, I haven't really pre-planned this. I just felt 5 felt a good number. So, house number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, potential. This could be our rental. Not really anywhere to park a vehicle when we get one eventually, though. So, probably not so keen on that one. But we'll keep looking. So, number 1. That's the end of there. So let's jump up to here, 2, 3, 4, and the restaurant doesn't really count. Okay, so nothing really on that side. What have we got over here? We'll start from the top, I think, on that one. I don't want to lose our position of where we are from the shop. I did say 5 houses from the shop each time. So, in actual fact, if we did it that way, that would be 1. Did we count that one already? We did. So actually, right, let's do it while we're here. So that would be house 1, house 2, house 3, house 4, and house 5. So that one over there. Make sure we don't get run over. House number 5, so that's an option. Would be quite nice to have a nice little area to park a vehicle. I guess can't really park a vehicle on that side. That looks like an entranceway to someone's farm, but maybe there's a little area there we could utilise to park off the road. So that might be good. Let's just run on back real quick. I think my character could do with going to the gym so we can run a little bit faster, but it's fun. Right, let's go down this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that another one there. That is an option. Is that part of the... Oh no, that's a shame. That would have been nice if that was part of that house. I could have used that as parking. So that's an option there. Number 5. Let's keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this one over here ahead of us. Zebra crossing opposite, which is always good, slows the traffic down, and again potentially a bit of off-road parking as well, so that's probably a good shout. That seems like a good deal. And let's keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a shame that's not number 5. 5. So this is what I meant, by the way. That is not an option. That is not an option. So we'll skip that. That doesn't count. It would be great to start off with a little bit of storage in a big area like that, wouldn't it? But that's not how we're going to do it. So actually the house would be this one, number 5. Which again, maybe a little bit of side parking there. Not a bad option. 1, 2. We'll skip that. Doesn't count again. It's just a little bit too big for my kind of liking. So this one will be 3, 4 and 5, which actually coincidentally and conveniently is the opposite one to where we ended the last count. So that one there potentially as well. Good, not too bad. Don't really think there's anything going on here because that's just there on its own, so we won't count that. Now I did look at this one actually on my way down, and I would quite like, maybe let's throw in a wild card of one of these 2 houses, because I like the idea of having to park a vehicle on a drive, just for that whole realistic feature. So that's quite cool. Maybe it costs more. Maybe that one will cost, I don't know, 900 a month. £800 per month for all of the other houses, but the ones that have the off-road parking, 900. That sounds like a good little deal, with a good little additive to the challenge. So that's that, I guess. Good idea, good suggestion, good selection, I should say, of different houses that we can kind of improvise and do a bit of role play to rent. So I will make sure by the next episode I have got the mod installed for the doorstep. Pretty sure I have anyway, but I will just double check before I record the next one. And yeah, that's kind of it for now. So we're probably at 35-40 minute episode, which is a good size episode, I think. Anything shorter than that sometimes is a bit too quick, goes a bit too quickly. But hopefully you've enjoyed it. It's different. It's kind of the same, but very different, if that makes sense. I think the rules is what's going to make it. And hey, I mean, the main thing about doing this is that I actually enjoy it, of course, you know. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, the recordings aren't probably going to be that interesting. So please do let me know in the comments your thoughts. I get loads and loads of comments on all of my other episodes, but hopefully this might drive a few new faces, a few new subs, which of course, you know, is an added bonus. This sort of thing for me isn't about money. It's just about kind of sharing different ways to play the game, I guess. You know, it's a simulation game, and I do like to try and make it challenging and realistic. The game only has a certain amount of elements that you can install as a mod, so you have to kind of think up some little rules and just kind of stick to them. But I do know a lot of my existing subs and people that comment do kind of, they've started new games and changed maybe some of the ways that they play some of their maps now, just with a few added little challenges to it. So yeah, hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you are new, I don't normally do this, you know, but first episode of a new series potentially is the one that drives you the most amount of views. Certainly has for my other ones. So I don't normally do it, but if you are new, just give us a little boost to that subscriber number, because yeah, there's a magic number. 1,000 followers on YouTube gets you that little bit more interest, and it kind of bumps you up, that you tend to get recommended a little bit more. Now I would really love for these videos, whether I have 10 people watching or 400,000 people watching, I still put the same amount of effort and the same amount of time into the recording and the editing. So it makes absolutely no difference to me. I would just like more people to be able to see what I'm doing, I guess. So yeah, please do. Please give us a comment. Maybe you want to give me some suggestions on which one of those houses look the best before I do the next recording. That would be pretty good. And yeah, £3,594. Episode 1 finished. So until the next one, cheers and gone.